Hi, everyone. It's my publication day for my paperback. Thank you for the love, Misan. Thank you for the love, everyone. I really appreciate it. You know, books are really weird. Like, you write a book, it comes out in hardback, and then about a year, or in this case, 2 years later, it comes out in paperback, and it's like a new book. I'll show you. It looks, if anyone's seen the hardback, it looks completely different. Different cover, different vibe, different packaging. I don't know. It's cool. It's like you wrote two books, but you only wrote one.
All that one is grammar. Buy the book. Just buy it. All this grammar.
This is why you need Niger on the
Support
chat.
this
Thank you,
woman.
Misan.
Her
I'm
words
such
are
a Ghanaian. I'm
magnificent.
like really modest. I wrote a book, and you can think about the packaging. You're like, buy it.
When useless influencers that are contributing nothing to the world are flogging everything, buy the book. Thank you.
Thank you, Misan. And I'm in Bergen in Norway at a book festival, and it's actually an unexpected full circle for me. So I was born in Norway. As you may have noticed, it's not like part of my identity that I really wear in a big way, mainly because I only lived here as a very small child. And I'm not a Norwegian citizen, although I think I could be if I wanted to. But coming here and talking about like my work, my anti-racism work, my decolonizing work, and having them so receptive and listening and questioning their own role in empire and racism and just being open to that conversation, it's actually been quite restorative. It feels good to be engaging with them in that way. And I've literally had the most receptive audience in Bergen. They've been very, very wide open. So that's been, it's renewed my faith in humanity a little bit at the moment.
God knows we all need that.
I thought I would start by giving you the perspective from Norway, because it's a little different. Well, different as in same shit, different place. So the big story in the news here is that the Crown Princess is mentioned more than 1,000 times in the Epstein files. 1,000 times. And yeah, it's kind of gross, Miss Anne. It's really gross. And, we're seeing the same things with like powerful people everywhere sucking up to this guy. She talked about helping him find a babe, basically, in Norway. Like it's really gross. She was invited to his private island at least twice. She sent him like cute little chatty, flirty emails, and also allegedly had a 4-day stay at his Palm Beach residence. And she has said that she has deep regret and the friendship is embarrassing. But I think it's really shattering whatever illusion is left in the dignity in these supposedly high offices.
And it's amazing how many of these revelations are coming out after his first prison term, right? This is the most extraordinary thing. So many people were very keen to continue. If someone gets convicted for convorting with a minor and you still want to break bread with this person after that? Nah. What is that? I'm actually looking for because the other thing is on the pure trafficking side and how these young women, some of them young adults, some of them literally children, were treated. One of the first things I did when I had access to some of these correspondence is I typed in photographer, and there was an email, I'm trying to find it now, that just it terrified me because it was from a photographer emailing Jean-Luc Brunel, who was one of the main highly problematic enablers of the abuse these women had. And this photographer was emailing him saying how he's can get Russian girls to take topless pictures down to a really low price. And he was pitching himself to saying, I've got it down basically to an art form. And I'm just like, what the fuck am I reading? And as a photographer, it's one of those things where you think of, how the male gaze is all over photography anyway. You think about most models start at 14, 15, going to go-sees in random places by themselves, asked to take their top off, sometimes go completely nude. And this was, the prime feeding ground of these 50-plus-year-old men with endless wealth to abuse, rape, molest children. And we are getting members of the royal family. We are getting just about every billionaire you can think of knowing that about this man and continuing to email him, have dinner with him, go to his park, borrow his plane, right? It's crazy, and I
Yeah, it's very real. It's not just, and there's no just anyway, but like just in case anyone's confused about what this actually means for the culture, like back to Norway, while the crown princess is like having all these like light-hearted exchanges with Epstein, meanwhile, the crown prince, let me get his official title now, writes, um, Marius Borg Holby is currently at the same time
oh
on
gosh,
trial
for rape, right?
for 38 criminal charges, including 4 counts of rape, domestic violence, drug abuse, making threats with a knife. These aren't even connected to Epstein. It's just the point
Same
that
family.
when you have cultures, families, institutions that normalize this kind of behavior, it's not limited to email exchanges or even to remote islands. It becomes completely normalized. And the defense that this Norwegian prince is advancing is that he grew up in a culture of addiction, alcoholism, desperation for approval. It's just so sad and rotten to the core. And, I think Norway, because it's so extreme, because they've got these double blows of the Epstein files and this rape trial, is really making it impossible to look up to the institution of the monarchy here. And, we're not exactly in a different position in the UK. You've got the government, the House of Lords, high net worth individuals, and royals all swept up in this completely toxic, depraved culture of access, influence, sexual abuse, exploitation. It's omnipresent. And you know what, Misan? You know who is not implicated? I'm not seeing any Black people. I'm not seeing any trans people. I'm not seeing any undocumented migrants. All the people that we're constantly being told are the villains in our society that are causing all our problems are nowhere to be seen. You know who's to be seen? All these privileged white men who hold great roles, titles, positions of power, who are corrupt to their core. And it's such a scam. And that's why they keep trying to persuade people to hate visible others, to distract their attention from the fact that these are the people that have absolutely zero moral compass. And my hope that the silver lining from this horror, this series of horrors, is that it's going to wake people up and show them reality, because this is in a way a gift for reality. It's like you can't avoid being confronted with the truth. It is being dumped on you constantly, and it's real, Miss Anne. And
It's
it's
very,
like you get the feeling this was never meant to come out. If you see the behavior in these emails, these people, this photographer, this crown princess, they never in a million years imagined we would be reading these emails. They thought they were protected, that they could conduct their true selves peacefully outside the hidden gaze and then present us this front of respectability, and the veil is gone. And
yeah.
that's the only like good thing I can find in this sorry story.
And and let's be very, very real in terms of the choices these men, and it is an observation on patriarchy that has to be a reckoning. It is a reckoning on patriarchy. What I mean by that is, I saw Melinda Gates get interviewed, and she was getting a harder line of questioning, right, than her husband. And the alleged situation with her husband is pretty fucking horrible. Excuse my language. Alleged. I will have to say that. And I haven't seen him being asked the hard line question that then the wife or ex-wife was asked. Now, on masculinity, patriarchy, we all like to laugh at Andrew Tate and the crypto bros and the Dubai bros, but those are small, small boys. The guys that we're talking about now are the preeminent minds of our time, faith healers of our time, MDs of banks and funds of our time, heads of tech companies of our time that have fiscal access. Some of them are wealthier than the GDP of certain nations, and they can afford to cavort with adult women of their choosing anywhere in the world, but they chose to go and spend time with a man that is known to molest children. We should never forget that. They chose to do that. You cannot say you didn't know what Jeffrey's proclivities were. And in terms of the white supremacy of it all, which is also a very interesting thing, in general, right, they like to spend time with non-black subjects, and there is a sprinklings of eugenics all over the place as well. It
I
is
mean, I
deeply
don't know if you've
disturbing.
seen it, but let's just spend a second thinking about the race dynamic here. Epstein, one of the emails said, no N-word, please. He specifically did not want Black girls on his island. It's one of the rare times when you're like, their racism really saves us. Like, I am so grateful that he decided that he didn't want Black girls to be participating in that abuse. And it's wild. And this is the same person who, by the way, was deeply curious about race. Like, he was commissioning studies to try and work out why Black athletes are faster. He was busy blaming violent crime on Black people in America. It's like every toxic trait around race at the same time. And it's not a coincidence. It's not
Nope.
a coincidence. This is how these people function. And I also just want to say that I am really looking forward to seeing the Daily Mail start talking about white grooming gangs, white pedophiles, because that's what this is at the highest level. And you know what? It's so interesting. When it's white men, they conveniently leave the race out of the description, Miss Anne, giving us the continuing idea that pedophilia is something that uniquely affects minoritized communities. Actually, as we know, and as this confirms, the vast majority of pedophiles are white men, including supposedly highly respectable, powerful white men. They will not ever describe it that way. And if we can't use this opportunity to see how they function, then it is a waste.
Well, did you see how they're now trying to say that Epstein, and you only have to just go and look at the documents to see his irrefutable connections with Israel, but they're now trying to tell us he's a Russian asset. And I was like, you what? I was just like, it's ridiculous. And the other thing we have to give time to is Mandelson. The Peter Mandelson situation is the biggest scandal we've had in the British political landscape since the Profumo scandal, I would say, and it's possibly bigger. And I think as we peel the onions of this layer cake, it may bring down a generation of politicians, including our current prime minister. I personally think it's that big a deal. Let's
So
see.
just on the Israel thing, I've seen that. I've seen people. I saw Danny fucking Brown. He's so brilliant. That's his,
I love
that's
it.
his hand. I'm not swearing at him. I think he's amazing. But the thing is, right? This is my takeaway from this whole
Sorry, do you know
trying
who
to make it a
Danny's
Russian
dad
asset
is?
situation. No,
You don't know who his dad is?
I
Danny fucking Brown.
don't.
Goldie.
I don't. I was. He looks like Goldie. That's so great. Because usually also you don't see his face. And this one was a video and I haven't seen him for ages. And I was like, he looks so much like Goldie. That's wild. Anyway, listen, my takeaway is a little bit different on that. So basically the thing that's being said is, why are they speculating that Epstein may have been a Russian asset when it's like completely documented without any doubt, on the record, visible, uncontestable, that he was in bed with Israel. The reason, in my opinion, is that it's not regarded as treason to be in bed with Israel. The entire British establishment is an Israeli asset. That is not an offense. That is normal. That's the status quo. That's the arrangement. Our military trains their military. Our intelligence shares secrets with their intelligence. Our weapons manufacturers arm their military. Like, it's a cozy relationship. They're already so in bed with each other. That's not even a thing. Selling secrets to Putin is a thing because he's regarded as an enemy. That should make us think, why do all of our rules around sovereignty and secrecy to protect British interests just seemingly completely disappear when it comes to Israel? That is a question I've been asking for a long time. And I hope this will help center our minds on it. That's not a thing. That's why they're not talking about it in Parliament. They're like, yeah, we all know that we're in bed with Israel. That's completely fine. But Russia, that's a problem. So that's my takeaway. It's
Uh,
wild. And
y-
as
y-
Danny said, it's fucking mad.
I mean, remember when conspiracy theories were conspiracy theories, and now I'm looking at, I just saw the footage of Ghislaine Maxwell's father, Robert Maxwell's funeral. This man was given a state funeral in Israel, like he was an actual prime minister. I'm like, huh? I mean, he was a newspaper baron in England given a state funeral in Israel. And his child is the number one groomer of this whole house of cards. I
What
don't know
can
what
you say?
else. I don't
To
know
say
what
they
else
have
to say.
questions to answer is such an understatement. But I just know what's going to happen next. They're going to conveniently try and make this a bad apple that says nothing bigger about the system, that says nothing bigger about the relationship. And we can't let that happen on our
Mm-mm,
watch. We
mm-mm.
cannot let this be carved out as some kind of exceptional situation that now that Epstein's conveniently dead, just kind of disappears. You know what? And this is what they're doing. They'll get rid of Mandelson. They might even get rid of Keir Starmer. And then it's like, done, job done, swept the house clean, back to business. No, that's not okay. And I'm not, by the way, saying that we shouldn't get rid of Mandelson and Keir Starmer. I'm just saying don't let them distract you with the idea that removing a couple of individuals is going to do anything to undermine the system at work. We have been gifted with insight into the system at work. It hardly ever happens.
Yeah.
We are never meant to see these emails. This was never meant to come to light. We have to make the most of it. And people need to use this to radicalize themselves about how not okay the
Well, the
status
internet is
quo is.
ready because folks are making a thesis out of this. One thing, and I want to give everyone a trigger warning now because it's triggering. But I also think we should center the genuine abuse. So I read Nobody's Girl, the Virginia Giuffre book, and I think it's an astonishing book. And one thing a lot of people need to understand that Virginia, before she was in the claws, really, of Ghislaine Maxwell, whom she met at a place called Mar-a-Lago as a 16-year-old, right? Or maybe 15. But she met Ghislaine in a place called Mar-a-Lago. Make of that what you will. She was raped by her father from, I think, the age of 7, and then shared with her father's friend as she got a little bit older. She never had a chance. She was a
Oh,
walking, and then sent to these weird boarding schools that were, again, she was just, again, abused beyond belief, and somehow manages to get a job as a very young, young person in Mar-a-Lago, and she somehow meets, of all the people, the devil herself, Ghislaine Maxwell. And that was the beginning of the story that leads us to not just Andrew, but again, very senior people in the Israeli leadership military, which she writes about. Uh, she names a few billionaires. There's one billionaire that she's obviously passed away now. She was too scared to name. And she was just one of those victims, just one. The sheer
I
scale.
just want to add as well, it's not a coincidence. So these people seek out vulnerability. They were looking, and this is on the record from Ghislaine Maxwell Epstein, how they functioned. They were looking for girls who were already broken, who were vulnerable, who expected abuse because that was their experience. And that is just one of so many things that makes this kind of predatory behavior so disgusting. Imagine sniffing out someone who had that kind of trauma and working out how you could use them and how you could use them to service people who already have everything. It's just like evil, and I don't usually speak in those terms, like usually life is complicated and good people do bad things. Sometimes it's appropriate to just use the word evil. Like there is no other name for it. And it's the way that it's been normalized. It's been normalized. We all lived through Epstein's trial and conviction, and somehow we were not allowed to see the full picture of how widespread this was. And look how hard it's been to get here. And we still are far from seeing everything. So far from seeing everything. There's millions of files that have yet to be released. You can only imagine what is in them if these are the ones that we're being allowed to see. Like my imagination does not extend that far. I mean, thankfully, because I think it's protecting me at this point.
Remember how shocked we were when the Access Hollywood thing happened, and that was just a tape of him saying you can grab them by the you know what. And I remember generally thinking, oh my God, this guy. We are honestly got to a place where we're now talking about the grooming of children, some as long as nine. Nine. And again, our fourth estate, our press has not covered it. They have not. They have done the usual gaslighting
I
to
actually,
extreme.
I actually heard a man on the BBC today on the radio use the phrase child prostitution trafficking. And I was like,
My God, I would.
you know
I would.
what prostitution with children is called? It's called rape. What part of this do you not understand? I literally could not believe that this language is still in use. It's absolutely wild to me that you could frame it as some kind of legitimate financial transaction. Like, this is child abuse. This is
Yeah.
rape. This is not some kind of prostitution story.
Yeah.
And it's just like the casual nature with which they're using that language. To me, it reveals something about the mindset. They are still refusing to acknowledge the humanity of Epstein's victims, of Prince Andrew's victims,
And
of whatever he's called, Mountbatten. You're not, and as if by like not calling him Prince Andrew anymore, it somehow protects the royal family. Like, let's remember who he is, the Queen's son. You can send him out of his castle or his palace and you can change the name,
yeah.
but it doesn't
And
change the fact.
and they
Just like
somehow
these are royals at the top of the food chain that are engaging this behavior. And again, this is just what we're seeing, everyone. This is only the tip of the iceberg that we are being allowed to see. Never forget that.
they have seen pictures of the Prince Andrew with some kind of person that I don't know if they're asleep or unconscious, and they still hate Meghan more. Number one, right?
I saw
Somehow,
that. That was
even now, right? And then the other thing, Afua, I think we have to be honest about even on our progressive side of things. I mean, I for a long time I really looked up to Noam Chomsky. I was quoting him,
oh, that one hit. That
and
one
I'm
hit.
like,
That
and
one was hard.
I'm like, I can't defend
That
what?
one hit hard. I mean, like Deepak Chopra, I was not
I
that
beg, I beg.
surprised.
You know,
Let's be real. But I mean, still though, you're about like spiritual growth. What the actual, at least the royals are like about power and privilege. This guy's selling some kind of like bigger idea about spirituality.
yeah.
But Noam Chomsky, that one is
Well,
really,
but
really
also
rough. And it's
your
the
line of work
context
as
as
well.
well.
Your professor, and I saw this Harvard professor. His email was, "Did you torture her?" He's since resigned, but he sent an email that said, "Did you torture her?" Who are these people? I'm just like, and
I don't know what
these
to
are the
say.
people that honestly, on paper or even in the rooms that we see them in, are the the pinnacle of human success, apparently, right? And we're getting professors, academics, real people that have studied the human condition speak to him about the gray area of sexualizing minors. I mean, one of the things he enjoyed it being in discourse with the academics is, in the old days they would have eunuchs. In the old days, people would take young children as slaves, basically. And he's always said, Epstein, that was part of the human story, and we're not living naturally, a version of that. And I'm like, so he's going to email the top professors to hope someone bites and agrees with it. What? It's just, I don't know what to say.
Shy away from this. I don't know if people listening know this, but in the 70s, Liberty, well, what was to become Liberty, which is one of our leading human rights advocacy groups in the UK, launched a campaign to support paedophile rights. And there was this moment where paedophiles jumped on the language of human rights to say that they were equal and should be allowed to have sex with children, aka commit rape. And there were all these people who are now recognized as these leftist, progressive human rights figures who supported that movement and used the language of equality and, for an adult to love a child, everyone's different, everyone's equal. Like that strain completely exists in the world of people who consider themselves progressive and human rights respecting. We got to call it out. And I did an investigation on this years ago, and I read some of the files in the archive, and the way I felt sick to see the people that I had looked up to as human rights lawyers or politicians speaking in that way. And then when you speak to them, say, well, it was a different time. It's not a different time. It was not a time when it was okay to rape children. It was like this cognitive dissonance to see what they were saying and have to reconcile that with who they are. And, I think some people like to think that this is kind of political tribalism. You call it out when it's on that side, but you're fine. No, it's never fine. It's never fine. And also, not our people, man. I'm still waiting to see one of our people who was in that world saying that was okay. Listen, I think that there is some whiteness to this nonsense, this whiteness to this depravity that I literally, it's like, I
There are a few,
can't understand it. I
few
can't
black
relate
people,
to it.
child. There are a few black
Oh,
people
we have our own problems. We have
uh,
our own problems.
asking for private jet flights. So, and I saw a few Nigerians emailing him, trying to sell him oil block. I mean, it is, but I think also with certain black celebrities, they are no longer black, right? So, the Pharrells and Jay-Z's of that level, from that world, they don't really see you as black. That you are Jay-Z to them, which is a very
Let's
different
not forget
person.
Diddy, by the way,
Yeah,
who
yeah.
runs
It's
his own
not.
Epstein level
Yeah, it's
depravity. Um,
so but
I
then
just want to say as well, I want to say, like, billionaire worship, because this is, by the way, not in any way to excuse or exonerate any of this behavior, but if to understand it, I do think there is a way in which we are unquestioningly aspirational towards billionaires. Like if a Kardashian shows up, it always shocked me. Like I was in LA last year in Venice, and like one of the younger Kardashians, I don't even know which one is which, Misan, one of them had a pop-up, and these young people were like queuing round the block, like overnight, sleeping on, just to like get a glimpse of this Kardashian. And I was just like, this person has contributed zero to humanity. What have they done? What idea have they created that's helped people? What innovation have they offered? What like creative story has helped us understand ourselves better? You can correct me if I'm overlooking something major here, but I'm like, we have been groomed, all of us, collectively groomed to worship people because they are really rich without asking, how did they get really rich? Like, literally, I'm curious, what did they do? A lot of the people who become that wealthy do it by either like fucking up life, exploiting impoverished people, exploiting natural resources and contributing to climate destruction. It's not like a thing that happens by just being a nice person. Okay. And I just wish we were a little more critical about what is involved in becoming a billionaire. Why would we make that our aspiration? And I'm not glorifying poverty. I'm not saying I don't understand why people want or need money. We live in a capitalist society that heavily penalizes you if you do not have resources. We all need them. But to become a billionaire is a different order of behavior. And I'm also not saying all billionaires are pedophiles. I'm just saying part of the reason that you can see the behavior of these people, who, by the way, are pretty comfortable financially themselves, sucking up to Epstein in such a disgusting way. Disgusting. It's like this cult of worship towards people who have that money. And I will just say, like, to see Peter Mandelson, like, bowing and scraping to get like 10 grand for his husband to do an osteopathy course, like, it doesn't make sense. He could come up with that money. It's just the culture of like having this billionaire patron and feeling like there's something glamorous about that. It's gross, and we all need to wake up. And I include, like, we're all being groomed by this culture of billionaires, all of us.
when it comes down to it, we want a roof over our heads, the ability to look after our kids, feed ourselves, and take some kind of bite out of life. And that could be holidays, and we like things, but that is a very different thing to be worth more than nation states. And the over 3,000 billionaires that we have in this planet have a combined net worth of over 18 trillion, right? The top percent of the world have more than 50% of the total wealth of this planet, right? It is an extraordinary thing to consider what would happen to the world if that was shared in some kind of sensible manner, right?
I
Um,
want to give a shout out to George Monbiot, if you haven't read his book, The Invisible Hand, because one of the things I struggled to reconcile, Miss Anne, is that I really like nice things. I'm just going to say it. I like nice things. Nice things make me happy, like comfort, luxury, things that like thought has been put into the way they're designed, or they smell good and they've got essential oils in them, or food that's like very natural, sourced from local places. And, you know, in my head, I was like, am I a hypocrite? Because I think it's grotesque for people to be billionaires, but at the same time, I don't want to be poor. I like nice things. George Monbiot's whole mantra is private sufficiency, public luxury. This idea that we have been conditioned to see publicly available, widely distributed goods as really substandard and luxury as the monopoly of the rich. And it really doesn't have to be that way. We could live in a society where public spaces are luxurious, where things that are available for everyone are luxurious. That is completely achievable given our accomplishments as a species.
Mhm.
But we have not been encouraged to think that way because the
Yeah.
people who are
I mean,
controlling our
the
ideological space
aeroplane,
are billionaires.
the aeroplane's a great example. We could all have comfortable seats inside airplane. We don't need a fucking business class or first class. Just give
Yeah.
us nine. Let
That's
me
the thing.
balance.
Like, I
You
don't want
know?
to fly economy. But then it's like, why is anyone in the seat like
Yeah.
that?
Let's just all be comfortable. And I did this speech a few days ago that went super viral about the Grammys. And it's the same sort of thread. And I didn't call out, but I said everyone was saying fuck ice. But that is because saying fuck ice is incredibly safe to the mainstream media, to any kind of liberal elite group in America. And it completely ignores Congo, Sudan, and of course Palestine. And I brought up this example to show how sometimes performative advocacy is propping up the very empire that is suffocating us all. And I can tell you now, the only time in my life where I felt my own life was threatened for my activism is when I mentioned the P word. And that's why I believe that Palestine is a source code for empire,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And when I say
Yeah.
empire, it isn't just about Gaza. The moment you lift that bonnet up, it leads you to what is happening with the RSF. It
Yeah.
leads you to which tech companies are abusing Congo and have done for generations, right? It leads you to why the trans and queer community are being attacked in a specific way. It is the same demon at the very top that has co-opted so much of the consciousness of most people in the Western world that they generally think that an erasure of a people is in self-defense. And the entertainers of our time prop it up even when they're doing their fuck ice. Two words that is safe enough to say, doesn't rattle anything, and allows them to continue being part of the pillars of the same machine. They have stylists, they're wearing $25,000 clothes from fashion labels that have literally child slavery as part of their DNA, literally, right? And this,
I agree, but I would just add, like, it sounds, this is how crazy the world we're living in. Like, I want to agree. Like, fuck ICE. Who can disagree with that?
Mhm,
When Trevor Noah went in at the Grammys, he had Trump personally threatening him. Like,
mhm,
these are unhinged times.
mhm.
The thing that you think would be an obvious safe thing to say is actually not safe. These people are petty, they're vindictive, they are completely willing to use the apparatus of the state to persecute people for saying the obvious, stating facts which are documented. Look at how they've been trying to arrest journalists. It's wild. So fuck ice should be a pretty safe, bland thing to say. Even that is risky. The other thing I would add as well is like, I've seen people as well, you talk about Gaza, what about the rest? And I'm confident by the rest they mean Sudan and Congo, which we 100% should be talking about. But there's just like a simplicity and a simplification to the way we do this, where it's like now you name check one place, then you name check three places. What about Mali? What about Myanmar? What about Chagos Islands? What about like this system is globalized. It is spreading misery globally. It's not one country, it's not three countries, it's not one group of people. It's so extensive. And I wish we could become more sophisticated at realizing how much of the world is currently being exploited to prop up these powerful interests. And it's really, really frustrating how little people know about it. So I don't know the best way. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes making Instagram reels doesn't feel like the meaningful work. And actually, lately, increasingly less. I don't have such a love-hate relationship with it, but people kind of jump on a bandwagon and then it becomes exactly like fuck ice. It becomes a slogan. It becomes a meme. Look what happened with Black Lives Matter. Like
Well,
all of the
what
same corporates that were posting their black squares now like kowtowing to Trump. It just
what
really reminds you how shallow it can be.
Well, I think rage on in an algorithm that is most powerful when we are angry at each other is lethal. But if people like you and me and others understand how to bypass that and use a cadence that builds bridges, it is crucial, and it builds community in a way that scares even the biggest news organizations. One thing I said a little earlier, I'm going to repeat again, and it's a really important point. And one day, maybe with your help, Afua, I'll do a book to talk about my experience since October 23.
Maybe.
But it is important for people to understand, and when I mean this, I've been celebrated for being a voice for everything that I care for. But the only time in my life where I've had the most powerful men in the world call up every aspect of my life, personal and professional, is when I raised Gaza and Palestine. Not when I raised Congo, Nigeria, Yemen, Syria. Not when I talked about Black lives. Not when I talked about Trump, US politics. These people are calling people in my life saying, we will destroy him if he says one more thing. And that's when I knew that's where to face. That's where to face, because you don't get that kind of reaction if it was something small. And I have many friends. It isn't just me. Many friends that have had similar reaction, and it's been an incredible thing to observe how power is built, how lobbying groups have worked for specific needs that I think most of us were just sleepwalking through it up until the last 2 years. And many people are on a journey of unlearning, asking how the entertainment industry works, how does film industry work, what kind of social programming have we had post 9/11 in regards to how the continent of Africa is seen. How is the continent? I remember that Bruce Willis film when they went to Nigeria. I go, oh my God. It was part of the same thing. We were only shown in a
What
very
was that
specific
like
way.
black what was there was that yeah, there have been a few. I
There,
mean,
have been a few,
Hollywood Does Africa is
Yeah,
literally
it does. It
the
does.
worst.
And
It's
we
the
can
worst.
we should do an episode on Hollywood and the gaze on blackness, whether it's in the slave films, whether it's in Jamin Jonsu, someone who has, been typecast his whole career. Why? He's been playing a variation of one thing when I'm sure
The African. He's
yeah,
spoken about it, hasn't he?
he
Being
has.
cast as the African.
And he hasn't been paid well for it even. And then we can get into Tarantino and what
Oh, let's not.
damage.
I'm still getting trolled for my stance on one battle after another. I can't take on Tarantino right now because I was just going to make everyone hate me. And
This,
spoiler alert, I am not a fan. I'm not a fan. People don't respond well when I say I am not a fan. It's like, yeah, anyway, it's like other
right.
things I don't like.
Yeah.
People.
Well, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but you know what? We're fearless, Miss Out. We can go there. Let's do it. Like
any
I
white
say
man
as a
that
rule, do not avoid things that are unpopular. So
any
we can
any
try that.
white man that writes himself into a film that he makes so he can say the N word a billion times, I have a fucking problem with. You know, it's just I'm sorry, right? That's just it's a little bit too much for me. But we are digressing as we always do. There's so
Now,
much
I want to talk about something that makes me feel happy, which is what my friends on socials are calling the cultural divorce. So, in this current incarnation of the culture war, we're starting to see how the assets are getting divided, right? It turns out that and I've never been interested in Super Bowl before, but now I'm in. We get the Super Bowl, we get Bad Bunny, we get Shakespeare, because you're the one who sent me Ian
mm,
McKellen's incredible performance
brought me to tears.
on the Saturday Night Live late night show. It was powerful about the Elizabethan warning about what happens when you demonize immigrants. Beautifully performed. We even get guns, Miss Han, because apparently MAGA don't like it when people have Second Amendment rights. They switched on that. And that's what we get. On their side, they get pedophiles, Epstein, and this is the kicker, Kid Rock and Nicki Minaj.
Woohoo!
I know which side I'm happy to be on, bro. These people,
Yeah,
have you seen the alternative Turning Point halftime show they're trying to organize to try and stop people watching
yeah.
Bad Bunny?
It's satire at this point. I mean, it's just it's
It's
unbelievable.
really sad. These people, I saw someone posted, instead of sending ICE for undocumented migrants, they should send them out in search of that 4/4 rhythm.
It's
Because these
just
people have no seasoning whatsoever. They can't even bop their heads in time to a basic beat. It was so tragic to watch Kid Rock. Like, good luck, guys.
and
You know what?
he's a proper supremacist, Kid Rock, you know. Who co-opted black culture for a little stage in his life. You know, different artists. Pink had that little stage as well. You know, remember
Yeah,
There
what was
You
the Kid
Go.
Rock foray into hip hop? Did he do I mean, he's so like, he's one of those people that you vaguely know that you've heard of him, but you couldn't name a single song. I mean, can you name a single Kid Rock song?
No.
And
Um,
you're like a music encyclopedia, Miss Ad. You can
yes,
name like specific
yes,
bars
but
from specific songs.
you said music.
Good,
Mhm.
good, good there. I like what you did there.
Yeah, but they may
You like
reel
what you
out
did there.
Nelly or Snoop Dogg, man. You cut a check to those guys. They're gonna do the dance, which breaks my flipping heart. But again, I'm not gonna let it pass. They'll do
No, you
that
shouldn't have
dance.
to anymore.
You know,
It's you know what? Like if they want to pick that side, good luck to them. It's
they're
not a
not
good
picking
look.
sides. It's not even
Not a
picking
good look.
sides. It's just transactional.
Yeah,
And
but
Snoop.
that's what I like about what's happening. It's like you are picking a side because they, not us, they are trying to make people pick a side. And that's what's hilarious. They don't realize if you force people to pick between everything that's attractive, talented, rhythmic, compelling, like all the culture that people who care about humanity have created
Mhm.
versus Kid Rock, Trump, and Melania. Like it's not
Oh
going to
my God,
be,
we haven't even
guys.
spoken
It's not
about that
gonna
bloody
be.
movie. We haven't even done that.
It's been. I know the reviews have been giving me life though. I'm sorry. I'm not usually, as I always say. I feel like every week I'm like I'm not usually one to revel in someone's demise, but
Yeah, but I mean,
then
that's
I
why
revel
I mean,
every
again,
single
I don't want to be
time.
a conspiracy theorist, but like, it's including budgeting and marketing. It's a $70+ million movie. Now, I know enough
Okay, so
people in the film
we both
industry.
make documentaries, so maybe we could help put into perspective what it means to spend. What was it? 40 million on the documentary and 40 million on the
Yeah,
marketing.
I've never seen that in any doc
Okay.
in human
So how
history.
much did your feature length doc cost to make, and how much was spent on the marketing, Miss Anne, roughly?
It costs probably just over $1 million to make, and nothing was spent on the marketing but me and my peoples. So. there you go.
So
And that
my BBC series, Africa Rising, I think for an hour, our budget was, I think, and we got this, we earned this budget through doing it with nothing. So this is the high bar, 200 grand, I think. And how much was spent on marketing? My sweat equity, posting it on socials myself.
mm,
That's how much was spent on marketing. £0. Oh, and favors I begged. Like I had a launch because my amazing friend at the Conduit said we could use the space. So yeah, this is not normal. It is not normal to
what
spend 40 million on a documentary and 40 million on the marketing. And it's more not normal when it's this bad. Like that.
what
It's not, it's
also
just a bribe. It's just a bribe. It's literally a fancy way of dressing up a
yeah,
bribe.
the film didn't. I mean, I haven't seen it, but from what I've seen in the trailer, you can't see 40 million anywhere. But more than that, and I am not a conspiracy theorist, but if you are spending 40M on a doc, I know Hollywood well enough to know that you could have got some of the best documentary filmmakers. When it comes to that, if you're cutting that
But could
check,
you though? But
they
could
will.
you though?
Yeah, you
For
would,
this?
you would.
They would have
Plus,
signed up for this. This is
what
this is a career-ending move. Even
my sister,
like
I'm telling you,
even if you tried to make it a better film.
an above average doc filmmaker would have just said, F it, and I can go and play golf, right? What is crazy to me is that they got Brett Ratner. And Brett Ratner, apart from being in the Epstein files, of course, right, has been persona non grata because of all of the sexual abuse things that happened to him, over a decade ago. And I'm like, it just doesn't make any sense that that's the director that they're choosing to make this film. There are plenty of directors. They may not be Oscar winning, but of all the people, it's a guy that's about to be seen in pictures with Epstein is who you choose. Explain that to me.
I mean,
Just
that
it,
makes
it's
sense to
just
me, but maybe I'm very naive. I was like, nobody would agree to do this unless they literally had no other options because they're about to be cancelled. So that was my thinking. But you're saying that actually, like, credible people would have agreed to make this film. The thing is, Melania is not a subject who is capable of making an interesting film with her editorial involvement. Now, look, if you gave me a free rein to tell a story about Melania, I would, there are many stories to tell, right? About how she came to America, sounds like illegally, the modeling she was doing, the Epstein she was floating around with, the transactional relationships she decided to have with Trump. Like, those are stories. But obviously, with her as executive producer, the only story that is possible in this film is literally the most uninteresting one, in which you follow her around while she wears 6-inch heels. Like, it's not material. So that's why I was like, no self-respecting director would agree to
no.
make this
Well,
film.
look, Anna Wintour is fucking
I
with
said self-respecting.
right. Ellen von in my world photography. Ellen von Onworth photographed her. Right. Listen, listen. Look at what's happening, and more. I keep saying, and more big film fashion icons. You're going to see them pop out, either styling, doing photography, directing. It's
I
already
have to
happening.
say, Laura Roach styling Lauren Sanchez at Paris Fashion Week, that got me. Why?
Laura Roach.
Why?
He
Laura Roach,
I
Zendaya's
know Law. I know
stylist?
Law. I know
I
him
know you
personally.
know Law. In fact, I was with you and Law at the British Fashion Council Awards last year. Like, why? Why do you do that? Misan.
More will come. Much more will come. And this Met
So
that they bought,
disappointing.
they bought the Met, right? Just watch. Just watch the fashion people. They are the ones that honestly, I just think they will, because Anna has normalized it. And remember when that guy was cancelled, rightly so, for unbelievable anti-Semitism. Um,
Oh my God. I can see him, little guy. Yves Saint Laurent.
no, no,
What's
no.
his name? No, but the designer,
Yeah.
little guy, the one who died, little
No, he's
guy
alive. He's
blonde.
alive.
Oh, I'm thinking of
Anna
someone
brought him
else.
back into society. John Galliano.
Karl
John
Lagerfeld. Am I thinking of Karl
John
Lagerfeld?
Galliano.
Oh, John Galliano. But who was the one who died? Who did the crazy anti-Semitism thing?
Well, I mean,
Uh,
Carl hated everything and everyone, but John Galliano in particular,
uh,
that it was real in the age where
Nice.
people,
Sally's here. Hey,
you know,
Sally. Sally's like John Galliano.
the
She knows.
anti-Semitism was fucking, it was disgusting. And
Yeah.
years later, who brought him back into society?
That's it. He was at Dior. He was arrested over his
Mm.
anti-Semitic rant. And it was Anna who rehabilitated him. That's what you're saying.
Straight up,
Yeah, well,
straight up,
you
straight up.
mustn't forget that anti-Semitism is completely fine. It's not supporting everything Israel does that's the problem. Remember, that's the MO.
Mhm.
Neo-Nazis, fine. Anti-Semites, fine. Validly critiquing Israel's violations of international law and genocide, not fine. Those are the rules. And why anyone would take this remotely seriously, like you can't, if you engage your brain, you can't make it make sense because it doesn't.
Well, I mean, it's and it goes so deep with Anna because, of course, she, with Harvey Weinstein, his wife, Georgina Chapman, had the fashion label Marquesa, right? And a lot of actresses were wearing those clothes. And again, you tell
By
me,
force, it later
you
emerged.
tell me if you were married to such a man, you know, how much did you or didn't know? And again, look who brought her back into the frame. So to see Anna with Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez in the way that she is at this stage in her career is just really, really interesting. And if you look at Luis Pisano's page, so like these two, Blakely Thornton and Luis Pisano, are just doing some of the best kind of observation on the fashion world and its ties to all sorts of things. And Charles Winter, Anna Winter's father, worked for a brief time with a certain Robert Maxwell, who is a father of a certain Ghislaine Maxwell. So you're just like, these people, they've known each other for generations. I'm just like, I just want to hug my mummy at this point. It is wild.
Aww.
No, but it's just wild. I'm like,
I love that response.
I don't know. Oh, fuck it. I want to go to Narnia. Where's the closet? I want to go. you know,
Have I ever
it's
told you my Harvey Weinstein story, Miss Anne?
no.
Oh, it's not. I mean, obviously, it's terrible because he was terrible. But basically, I met him at a dinner with what's her name, Marquesa lady,
Georgina Chapman.
Georgina Chapman. This is before like the revelations came out, and I wasn't remotely involved in the movie world at that point, so I'd never heard of him. I'm embarrassed to say. Like, I think if you weren't a movie insider and who or someone who really followed closely, like he wasn't really a household name for ordinary people like me. I'm less ordinary now that I deal with that world. But anyway, I met him at a dinner and I remember saying to my friend, I cannot understand how this woman is with this man. He was so repulsive. And I'm not talking about, I mean, energetically, like
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
felt physically repelled. So anyway, that was that. And then I was working at Sky News at the time, right? And I was in the small, Sky News has like a huge office out near Heathrow in London, but I was at the Westminster office, which is really small. It's like a kind of little satellite office that covers Parliament. Anyway, the next day he was there and it's like there's not even a green room. That office is so small. So he was just like hanging around in the kitchen. They put him in the kitchen while they waited for him to go in the studio on air. So I'm just at my desk. I walk into the kitchen to make my cup of tea and there's Harvey Weinstein. And I literally knew nothing about him except that he was a big deal in Hollywood and he'd been at that dinner the night before. So I went up to him and was like, oh, hi, I met you last night. And Miss Anne, this guy physically backed away from me like he was scared. And I was like, and I was literally so nice. I was like, aren't you a big deal in Hollywood? Like, hi, like, what's the problem? And he was like
Hmm,
shrinking. And I
interesting.
was so confused. And I was like, huh, really weird. Maybe he doesn't like women. Maybe he's shy. I don't know. Anyway, I went off minding my business. When all of the nonsense, nefarious criminal abuse came out that he'd been doing, it emerged that, well, there were many things. Most of his victims were not Black women. And all of them were women who were in a position of vulnerability, wanted something from him, needed something from him.
Mm,
And I realized like he was very terrified of a woman he couldn't control. Like
mm,
I wanted nothing from him. I had nothing invested in him. I didn't need anything. I literally just was completely like untouchable in a way. I didn't think about it that way at the time,
Yeah.
but I think it was like an insight into how physically terrified he was of women he could not control,
Mm,
exploit,
mm.
or abuse. And it was really because it was such a mismatch at the time. I was like, how is this guy who's this huge producer and a big deal scared of me, like
Yeah.
little me? I'm just
But
a I'm
it
just a
makes it tracks.
correspondent
It
at
makes
Sky
sense.
News.
It makes
But now I
sense.
get it. Like these men are literally addicted to the potential to abuse. And in the absence of the potential to abuse, they literally don't know how to behave. They can't even like conduct themselves in a normal way. They feed on fear. It was such an insight. And I never met Epstein, thank God, but I can imagine
Mm.
it was a similar thing. Like they learn how to sniff out vulnerability. So anyway, that's my Harvey Weinstein story. And
Gosh.
like
Ugh.
it
I'm
I'll
glad it
never
was
forget
that.
it because it was only like a year later that everything came out. And yeah, imagine if I had though been like a vulnerable younger woman in that situation. Imagine if I'd been desperate to be an actress
Yeah,
or
yeah.
like
Well, yeah, they smell
much
blood.
less experienced or
Yeah,
self-assured. Like that would have been dangerous. And
yeah,
it scares me that he'd been normalized. He was being protected. When I realized like how much people had already known about him at that point, exactly like Epstein, people knew and they protected him, they enabled him, and they fed him
yeah.
vulnerable young women. It is so fucked up.
Well, it's and our press once again, you know, it's all linked to Epstein because Mandelson, of course. I'm watching how Mandelson is being reported, and our friend Trevor Phillips. Did you see his
That
name?
was
So,
so
so
fucked up.
he says, he
Oh
started off
my
saying
God.
that, Lord Mandelson is my friend. He isn't just his friend. He was the best man. He was the best man at his wedding. Is that a
Misan, you
friend?
can't Trevor Phillips at the end of our call because I have things to say
He was
about
the
that
best man
person.
at his wedding.
But
So to have the person talking about them that literally was the best man at your wedding and listen to the language that he used, and I was just like, dude, can't you see no one? There's a picture
everything
of
about that was disgusting to me. Do you know what? So, like Trevor Phillips, he's now an anchor on Sky News. I used to be on a show with him. He used to, by the way, before he was like toxic, enabling racism, he used to be a well known race equality campaigner a long time ago. Anyway, so he went on Sky News and he basically did this thing where this is what I think he thought it was going to be, or we thought this is what we would see. He comes on, he owns the fact that he was good friends with Peter Mandelson. Then he distances himself from Peter Mandelson and says, your career is over. And he comes out of it being like, I'm so transparent and I have so much credibility as a journalist that I can even give real talk to people that I'm friends with. This is what I saw. One, you were friends with this person who was deeply embedded with this pedophile, who was betraying his country, abusing his position of power, being completely dishonest traitor. That's one. Secondly, you're using your personal friendship to try and get a grabby headline. Third, you are selling out on your friendship by appointing yourself as some kind of moral judge of the person you just told us you were friends with. And four, you're doing that all in service of your own ego. It
mm,
was literally like, I was like, that's actually a skill to be like wrong on every single point in a row. I don't even know how he did that. It was wild to watch.
I just wish it wasn't, people that look like us that keep, I keep seeing, you know, somehow, we spoke about it last week with Javid, and now I just see Trevor getting deep into this in all the wrong ways.
He's far
Uh,
gone, Miss Anne. He's so far gone. He's so far gone. Don't lose sleep over him. He has made his brand for years being I'm that guy who can leverage the fact that I used to lead the Race Equality Commission to add a veneer of legitimacy to racist attacks on Black people. Like I can do that from the position of someone with credibility in the anti-racism space. It doesn't get worse than that. Because it's like if you're a former race equality campaigner who's basically sold out, like go quietly into your sellout life. But no, he has to take up space constantly weaponizing that against Black people who are doing the very fucking difficult work every day of showing up for our community. It's so gross. And I used to have to sit on a panel with him. And I knew why they brought him onto that show. They brought him onto that show because it was too easy for me to show my white panelists their racism. They were like, no, let's bring on a Black racist so it's harder for her. Like, muddy the waters a bit. That would be great TV. Listen.
Let's bring on a. At what cost, Afua? You can hear the pain in my voice. I'm like,
Uh,
I know how much it costs you to do what you do. I know what my experience is. And I just wonder, what beyond power and money, why? Why are they doing this? Why?
it's back to how we started. When I said that the Norwegian prince who's standing trial for more than 30 criminal counts said that it was at the root of all of the abusive criminal behavior, a desperation to be accepted. I think that it just looks even more pitiful in people who will never be accepted. Like Trevor Phillips, they're never going to forget that he's a Black man. But in his head, if he works hard enough to say what they want to hear, they're going to accept him. Sajid Javid, if he works hard enough at saying he's a good immigrant and he would never let his own people in the country, he thinks they might accept him. They might forget their racism for a minute. So sad. I pity them. I feel like I said the same thing last week.
Yeah, I think we
Uh,
did. We did. But I think
let's have
for a
a
lot of
Sajid Javid free show next week, Miss Anne.
Yeah, but it's interesting because we look at a lot of the big podcasts that are observing culture and the now of the world, and I think many of the hosts are white. Many of the hosts have quite a singular lived experience. I think you and I navigate really quite a broad church of spaces, right? And one of the problems I think popular culture has is that when Black voices are giving the biggest parapet to talk, it is the Black voices that don't speak in the way that you and I. And I know it's by design. I completely get that. But hopefully the dissemination of independent media is going to change it, because honestly, I don't even think it's cutting through anymore. I think those Black voices, the only people that actually enjoy seeing them are racist white people. It's not like I don't know a huge fan club of Black people that are crazy about Kwasi Kwarteng or Kemi. I don't. Maybe I'm looking for one, but I've never seen
Are
one yet.
you? I,
Yeah, no, but really, like I don't know. So who is it for?
It's not for us, that's for sure. And it's not for the amazing people who come on here, because we haven't had time to respond to all your comments, but this is a vibe. The people who show up when we talk are very special. I love them. I love you guys. And this is actually like a metaphor for me. Having spent a lot of my career in the hostile space critiquing the problem, now I'm actually just choosing a space where we can actually be real and honest and help us move forward, and it's like I spent a lot of years trying really hard to reach people who fundamentally will never care because they're not rational. Hatred is not rational.
Mm.
Unhumanity is not rational, and you can't reason with people like that. You just can't. So are you going to spend your life trying to reason with people who are driven by emotional hatred, or are you gonna pour love into the people that are trying to create solutions? Like, for me, that's a no-brainer.
I think to close off for me, I want to, many of you may or may not know that I'm global ambassador for Save the Children. And I did an urgent video today about Sudan. And just for people to understand, I'm very loud about Gaza and other places, but there is nowhere on the planet that has the numbers that Sudan has. And the IPC, that rates malnutrition and famine, has just released updated numbers. So in 2026, 4.2 million people, men, women, and children, 4.2 million are going to reach acute malnutrition.
So
That's
serious.
that's the second highest level. The highest level is SAM, severe acute malnutrition. Now I'm going to give you the number for that. This year, 800,000 human beings in Sudan are going to reach severe acute malnutrition. The next thing after severe acute malnutrition is death. I didn't say 80,000. I said 800,000 people this year are going to reach the very edge of death. And this isn't
What,
like Iran, where we can't get news or we can't get in. This isn't like Gaza, which is an occupied territory that we can't get in. Governments can do something about Sudan. And 800,000 Black people are already going to be on death's door this year. And we can either be silent about it. And I have reached out to every single fancy BBC Sky News person I know. They're not interested in Sudan. So it's left to us to scream about it. So I just wanted to use this opportunity to say, please, Sudan.
what should people do, Miss Anne? What should we do if we
Well,
care
I mean,
about Sudan?
obviously would Save the Children, all the information is there. Donate if you can, but almost more important than donating at this point is your government representative. Like this is something that the British government could move on really, really quickly, and it will save hundreds and thousands of Sudanese lives. And I'm all the flipping videos we're seeing about Epstein, if that energy was put into saying that 800,000 people are near death, it would save their lives. So let's do something about it, I beg.
Thank you, Miss Anne. Thank you for your work. We appreciate you. It's so important. Okay. It's always a joy. It's always a joy. It's cathartic. Thank you, Miss Anne.
Thank you.
Thank you,
We'll be back.
everyone, for
We'll be
joining.
back.
We're
Take care.
back. We're back.
Bye.
Bye.